Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Thank you for joining me today. In this video, we're going to discuss why the coming economic correction is going to be worse than you think. I'm coming at this from a historical standpoint, and I know that many of you who follow this channel are also students of history. So I want to use the lens of history to evaluate our present and our future. The United States has a success that's built on many things, but part of our economic prowess over the past 3 generations, 4, some people would argue, of memory, has been built upon the victory in World War II. And something that people fail to understand, after World War II, much of Britain had been ultimately decimated, and Britain was, up until that point, the established hegemonic power in the world. When Britain's infrastructure lay in shambles after World War II, the United States implemented, as part of a plan of containment of the Soviet threat, but also a desire to avoid getting a third round of war instigated by Germany in the rebuilding process, the United States implemented the Marshall Plan. Now, without making this video too long and laborious, the Marshall Plan essentially weaponized the United States dollar in an attempt to avoid keeping hundreds of thousands of service members on the ground in Europe indefinitely. Now, you can argue as to the wisdom of this plan, but the bottom line is that Europe was rebuilt, not in debt accumulated in their own sovereign currencies, but Europe was rebuilt via loaning programs that indebted them under the United States fiat currency. Now, at the time, it wasn't entirely fiat. We unhooked from the gold standard completely after that. But what we're seeing right now, subsequent to the pandemic and all the reshuffling and supply line and chaos and everything that we've seen over the past 2 years, what we are seeing is this sovereign debt worldwide that we have used to leverage our position in the U.S. against the rest of the world for sweet deals in trade and overall pretty solid positions defensively, this time is coming to a close. So what you're seeing right now in the United States with inflation is not just the result of the Obama administration's quantitative easing programs coming up into the present and the Federal Reserve continuing to pump money out and make it monopoly money basically since the pandemic started. What you are seeing here is the culmination of decades of weaponized dollars. So friends, when this house of cards comes down, it will not just be the issues that have been brewing for the past 10 to 20 years. These are issues that have been brewing since the Cold War started. Issues that have been created as a result of the world being indebted to the United States with weaponized dollars. The entire system itself is due for a reset, and not in some kind of glorified, eugenicist-oriented dystopian reset. The whole thing is set to come down because it's the nature and cycle of history. Dominance in a hierarchy is very rarely something that's a one and done thing. And the world has been waiting for a refresh for a very long time. The question is, what are we going to do about it here? And how do we best position ourselves? Because there are precious few people alive right now who had anything to do with World War II. In times of uncertainty, we have to look to the past, because human beings haven't changed that much, and certainly human nature has not changed that much over the past several thousand years. Technology has changed, but our needs as human beings and our proclivities as human beings, our desires as human beings, everything about what makes a human has not changed over the past several thousand years for sure. What are we always going to need? We're always going to need food, shelter, and clothing. We're always going to need emotional support. That's the bottom line. There are very, very few people who are best suited to be lone wolves. In times like this, a lot of people are feeling, as their dollars are worth less and less, and as everything seems to be costing more, a lot of people are feeling panicked in a way and unsure of how to move forward into the future. The best predictor of the future is the past. Throughout human history, the three things present that every human being is going to experience in some way, shape, or form, or be touched by in their lifetime: war, famine, and disease. Because of the disease that we have seen spread and come across the globe over the past couple of years, this vacuum that has been created, this instability that has been created, has opened up the world to reshuffle who's going to be the dominant alpha male, so to speak, who's going to be the gorilla at the top of the hill. And right now, the United States is really having to look itself square in the face and say, well, number one, is this even what we were supposed to be? Is this what we were supposed to be in the United States? Were we supposed to be the head of an empire? I would argue that our founders had a very, very definitive view on that, and the resounding answer is no, that they had an intention that we would be the opposite of an empire. Alas, here we are. Because of the instability created with the pandemic, the next thing obviously to come down from disease is either famine or war. And we're seeing war right now in Europe with Russia versus Ukraine. And a lot of the instability that is being created in that area is going to spill over and is spilling over not only into massive shifts in peoples, but also in disruptions in supplies, including food. Here in the United States, we're a little bit insulated from that. The one thing that we have seen over the past several decades is the interconnectedness of our markets because of technology. So what's happening right now is you're seeing the shelf life of the Marshall Plan expire. And at the time that the Marshall Plan's potency is effectively expiring and transitioning, you have a lot of different nation states who are now jockeying for power in the midst of a world that is going to be seeing food shortages and is seeing food shortages. So how do we position ourselves for success in all this? Have your food stored up in some way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, a lot of people are finding this out now very, very late in the game. But if you have nowhere to start with one extra can of food a day. Whenever you go someplace, if you can pick up a 50-cent can of food, or you can pick up an extra bag of rice at the grocery store, the checkout, whatever it is that you have, a little bit extra, set it aside. Something else that people don't want to hear: quit buying your coffee out. I know that may seem a little bit silly, and some people may say that already, like, you should know better, a person should know better than this. But if you at least will save 3 cups of coffee a month, that's $15 depending on how much you're paying for your coffee. And that's something that you can use to put food by. The reset that is coming, I believe, friends, is more than just economic woes. We are going to see a complete reshuffling and a complete turnover. And most people are not prepared for this because most people are walking around at an unprecedented level of historical ignorance. And we haven't really had to want or need for very much here in the United States since the Great Depression. Some people have grown up in poverty, but the experience en masse of thriftiness and of making do and beat it to fit and paint it to match, we're going to have to resurrect these skills of old. I know that we've got them because we got here for a reason. I think the way forward is the past. The ancient path, by the way. There's a passage in Scripture that talks about looking for the ancient path to find rest for your souls. And in times like what we're seeing here, I submit to you that having your faith and spending time in the Scriptures and spending time in prayer with God is only going to help you and strengthen you in knowing which way is going to be best for you, because there is no one size fits all. There's no one-stop solution for everybody. Not everybody can, go and live on a commune in the mountains somewhere. And that isn't necessarily a healthy thing for a lot of people who have not grown up in that. There are things that you can do to make yourself less dependent overall. And as long as you own some aspect of beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, your self-defense capability, your ability to take care of your family's medical needs at home, and also your food supply, as long as you have some degree of control over that and you're angling towards having a greater degree of control over that, you're working the system and the solution as best as you possibly can. And so what really, I guess, brought this video about for me is, surfing through the YouTubes and, seeing there's a lot of people who are talking about this is happening, a lot of hearsay and precious little solutions. And so the solution now is nothing new. There is nothing new about this. The solution to the future is the same one that worked in the past. It just may need a little bit of tech tweaking, but they're there. So I hope it was helpful for y'all today. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you'll subscribe to me here on YouTube, Patriot Nurse. You can also support me on Patreon, subscribe to our cryptocurrency and PayPal. I'll have links below. Please consider training with me. You need to have an ownership over the skill sets necessary to take care of your family's health at home without having to spend money needlessly to go into the ER or the hospital or potentially go into a medical grid that is increasingly politically weaponized against freedom-minded conservative people. So let me encourage you to make that a priority. You can train with me online. The course link is down below. It's 4 hours. It's $129. You can also train with me in person. The benefit of training with me in person is that you are going to be having an awesome opportunity to network with like-minded people in your area. Next month, I'm going to Kalispell, Montana, then Knoxville, Tennessee, Phoenix, Arizona, also going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Keller, Texas this year. The full schedule is at the website, thepatriotnurse.com. I hope it was helpful for y'all. Have a blessed weekend. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.